Good morning. How are you this morning? It seems like it's been for a long time to see you guys, and because I had some travel to Omaha to Phoenix. This time is really kind of terrible traveling. And when I go to Omaha, I'm flying to Omaha, and so because of the weather, I missed the flight. So I had to stay one night in Dallas, Texas, and because of the weather, so I couldn't get anything from the airline company. So I have to book the hotel like at 11 o'clock p.m. and then checked in, get out early in the morning. Not early in the morning, but in the morning, and get the flight to Omaha. And kind of the schedule is really tight, and pack everything, and that day and next day I rented a kind of a rental truck for moving, and then because my daughter is moving to Phoenix from Omaha, so there was a Friday, Thursday early morning. We pick up the trucks, but they don't fill up the gas. They didn't fill up the gas, and then I stopped, kind of annoyed, and then so stopped by a gas station and filled up the gas, and then drove to the Phoenix. So I took 3 days and 2 nights, 3 days. But it was really meaningful. Think about see the other side of America. So I live in LA, but still it's really convenient, right? A lot of people live there, and whatever I want, and I can get easily them, and then that kind of environment. I am living now. My daughter used to live there, and then she moved to Omaha because of the school, and then she had a chance to the rest of the school, go to Phoenix and to stay rest of the school, and then that's why she was moving. And the last week was a suffering week, and then I thought about what Jesus Christ has done for us, and about just a whole day driving is like it's really, really tired. But the thing that is really good to me, the thing that was really good to me was to see the kind of the other side of the America. So I know a lot of people are get together and kind of make a big city and really convenient. But if you see the rural area, and then the house is kind of separated, and kind of one house in the middle of nowhere, and then some houses are decent, but some houses are really kind of old and not properly cared, and I can see who live there. So what I was think about seeing the whole situation, think all sceneries, and is there a church for the people who need to come to Jesus Christ and who need to have a worship God. And it seems like there is no church to people get together and worship God. And so kind of my heart is aching, and keep driving, and then with prayer. So that was really great to me. I never thought about it. I never prayed for the people who there are many people who live remotely, and then kind of aside from away from the community. So when getting to New Mexico, and then when we got New Mexico and then Arizona, they are totally different. So I talked a lot while we're taking break for lunch and bathroom break, and the life that people are living, especially for native Indians. So last night we stayed, during the trip, the last day, we stayed in Gallup, the kind of where the located Indian, surrounded by Indian reservations. So we can see a lot of the places that the native Indian lives. And then about 15 years ago, I had a trip, mission trip to Navajo Indian, the people, and then I still remember, and then I can see there is no difference now, and then still, the images kind of came to me, kind of really heartbreaking. So I told my kids, and then she used to go down to Mexico a lot, and then around the part of the Mexico, and then I told her, it seemed like Mexico, right? She agreed with me, and then even though we stay here, and then still we try to reach out to people in overseas countries, and but still a lot of people are struggling with their lives and without faith, and then sometimes they need our help to know Jesus Christ. That is my challenge during the suffering week before the East, and that was when we arrived at Phoenix and unloaded everything, and then next day was Sunday, Easter Sunday, so we went to churches, and then they have a special service with the whole generation, and people have worship together. So they had set up everything in outside in the park, and then at the park, it was really hot, but thousands of people are sitting and standing because there is no chair and standing like us, and then we are a little late because of the we kind of missed the worship time, and so kind of compare with the people who are sitting here, and then I kind of picture the place that I pass by driving, and then kind of comparing, and that was just a really good experience for me during the last suffering week. I don't know how you guys had spent your time during the suffering week and Easter. I hope that you guys had a really great time. So this is Orange County. You don't need any mask, even though you go to public place and public transportation, and then there is a kind of a power game, but still, the judge kind of raised a hand for the remove the mask mandate and then in public place, and then that's why when I go to Omaha, we had to wear the mask, but when I come back, and it's optional. So but still my daughter and I wore the mask, but still my daughter told me in the morning that in LA County still they have to wear the mask in public place, and then but still it's almost for 2 years, but still something's going on because of the virus, and then it's not dangerous a lot, but still people are hospitalized and people are dying. That's why we gotta be careful. And last week we let's go back to let's start today lectures. last class we learned about what is a pre-Socratic philosophers, and then how they kind of and what is usually they are kind of used to do Greece mythology, but still they are against that one, and then they try to start the religion, right? Started a religion and try to kind of think about the absolute being, and they try to understand what is the foundational things, what are composing of the world, universe, and then that was the cosmology, and then their understanding about the metaphysics, and then developed, and then a little bit so epistemology, it's about the system of knowledge, and then we can see, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and the other, ancient philosophers, and then they a little bit developed, and then they think about how shall human being live. It's about the ethics, right? That is a basic foundation of the philosophy. Founded the foundation of the philosophies, and then they keep based on the philosophy, and then people keep developing and new philosophies, and that is the kind of the environment in Greek, ancient philosophy. So if we think about ancient philosophy, it depends on the scholars, but always Hesiod's kind of based on it's not philosophy, based on the mythology, and then he used a lot of stories explained about the relationship with the absolute being. But this is not an absolute being, the gods, and kind of interact with the human being, and sometimes a little bit too humanized, and sometimes the relationship with the God it's not that good, right? And then pre-Socratic philosophers, and then try to think about and against the kind of mythological explanation, and then they try to they started reasoning, and that's So last time we learned about the pre-Socratic, and then ancient philosophy, and Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. But we last time depends on the scholars, and then they little bit organized different. So I talked about a little bit Epicurus, and then was Zeno, so who founded the Stoicism, and then I talk about another kind of when I see the kind of timeline, and he is the Plotinus, and then each battle belonged to the Hellenistic period. But I already talked about, maybe I'm gonna bring a little bit bring them back, and then talk a little bit about the foundation again today, and then we can talk what is really popular at the time. So today and next week we're gonna learn about the Hellenistic period, who are the philosophers, what is the philosophical trend at the time. So before we jump into Hellenistic, and what is the Hellenistic period? And Hellenistic period about 341 to 31 BC. It's like Jesus Christ born around there. And then there is a period, so we usually divided 320 323 to about 31, the period of the Mediterranean history between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of the Roman Empire. So right before the Roman Empire emergency, coming out, and then between the time, and we signified by the battles, Actium in 31 BC, and then the conquest of the Ptolemaic Egypt the following year. So that is 31st is really so 323 is kind of was the great Alexander the Great passed away, and then from there is a big there's kind of a conflict and divisions in countries, and then and then Rome is coming out, right? And then mean that Greek is kind of little bit shrunken, and the Rome is came out and then started establishing the countries, and then there's a big time changes around there. So it's a little bit different from the ancient philosophy that we call we call the Hellenistic period, the Hellenistic philosophers, right? So really we're gonna focus on the time. Maybe they born a little bit earlier, and then sometimes they don't belong to exact this period, but sometimes born early and then he died around the period, around the early period of the Hellenistic Hellenism, Hellenist period, and then still we kind of put him into this period because still they are giving the kind of influences on the philosophers, right? And before we start off with the Hellenistic philosophers, and let's remember this was a time period, and then what's going on during the time, right? And period, they understand the body of human bodies, and still they have the classical ideas and ancient Greek, and then just think about how they understand. The reasoning is really important for human being, right? But in another side, and still look at this, and then the pursuit of the knowledge and art and moderation, civic responsibility, and bodily development. So still, right shape is really important. Sometimes satisfaction with whatever we want is really important. That's why, based on that one, philosophy is developed. And there is a kind of a different art. If you go to Greece, and then if you go to other places, they consider how they different, and they a little bit developed culturally, and we consider one, And at the time, what is their value? Hellenistic values, but the Hellenistic values foundation is inspired by the what? Anthropocentric. So anthropocentric means that it's only human-centered, right? It's not God-centered, human-centered. They are reasoning about God. They try to explain about God, but still they think that kind of there is absolute being, and then sometimes they understand the moving the whole the world, but there is the initiator. It's not unmovable, but still we cannot explain that the beginner who started the whole things move. There's a lot of way, right? So, and that's kind of against the image of God. They try to explain it, but always they believed about human reasoning. They give them a lot of credit that the philosophy is based on the reasoning, right? So, but that the values, the anthropocentric values, governing the Greek spirit. So, virtue is really important, and then excellence is really important, and then ongoing improvement and process. There is a kind of anything is not stagnant and fixed, right? Keep moving and improving and progress. That's a kind of at the time's values, and so we consider the characteristic of the Hellenistic period is we already saw that, but still at that time they expanded to Egypt and West India and Syria. So it's a really great expansion of Greek. That is so. At that time, Greek language is common, and then where does it go? And then kind of they try to build up the cosmopolitan cities, and then it's a really the Hellenistic culture is really popular at that time with the expansion of their expansion of the geographically and then and culturally. So another side we can see that, and then they expanded the other place, and then think about what happened in terms of religion. In terms of religion, and then that culture is exposed to another culture, and then we see another culture, and we can kind of adopt another two cultures, right? That's why. And then there is a social and cultural changes brought about changes in Greek religious practice. So not of kind of they observed the other gods, and then there is a syncretism is there, and that's the religion. And what about at that time, the individualistic feelings really contributed to fascination with the mystery cult, and which often promised the reward in form of the better afterlife. So art is based on the kind of your expression, right? Feeling and insight, intuition. That's why, this one is that kind of environment, atmosphere is reflected in religion too. So that's a kind of a lot of things mixed together, and mystical cult came out, and that time period. And told you new deity introduced Greek from areas such as Egypt and Syria, and then and cultural exchange and kind of a cultural exchange and trade, and that's happening at the time. So really influential, right? They got influenced by the other cultures, but still they influenced a lot to the other cultures. Here is one of the examples that how they developed the kind of other religions. The ruler cult and king wants to be kind of worshipped by the people like God, and the ruler cult, the cult became common as Hellenistic kings and queens began to be worshipped alongside with God. They want to be a god, right? That's why that is kind of influence under the early Christians, and then they reject to worship the vice emperors, and then they are persecuted, and they they are killed by the emperors. Domitians and Neros, and then they don't like Christians. They didn't like Christians. And that one is kind of a ruler cult. In some part of the Hellenistic world, in Egypt, which was ruled in Hellenistic period by a family called Ptolemies, and along with Ptolemies, traditional ruler worship had already existed at that time. But in other areas which had no such tradition, ruler worship did not catch as quickly or strongly. But still, look at this. And then Egypt and the Greeks. If you understand the kind of background when you read the Bible, and then it's really helpful. It's really helpful. That's why we are kind of looking at the ancient philosophy and what was going on, and what kind of we're gonna talk about maybe after Roman philosophy about philosophers about how Christian philosophers come against the kind of challenge from the outside. Yeah, that is art. You can see one of the temples, and then at that time the artists will really flourish, and then before Hellenistic culture, and then they just from side of the kind of statues like that, and then if you see me, and then only front side. But at that time they used a kind of space, and then kind of a waving and turning kind of you can see a little bit different changes like this. A little bit different from other period. That's the Hellenistic period, the artist explored new ways of representing emotional fact, individual experience, and ornate details like this, right? Architecture like this, and then architecture become a meaning of expressing of interest in the dramatic, enormous building, as well as surprising visitors, visitors, kind of outlook, and as to the sanctuary of Athena on the island of Lindos, and then different places, and then when people coming in, and when people see that the temples, the buildings, people are kind of had some feeling. That's why the buildings is really big and grand. That was one of the purpose. Really interesting, right? So religious buildings were often designed to give visitors a physical and emotional experience. Just think about, I don't know if you guys have the Lordland Cathedral when you go there, and then, I'm not a Catholic, right? But Catholic people come to there and see the whole things, and wow. And for me, that's a building that people build. But if you are the Catholic, and there's a lot of saints there, and then they have a really great experience. A little bit different from me. But that is a kind of the influence on during the Hellenistic period. So another thing is that Hellenistic sculptures and then reflect a new way of personality and introspection by showing realism and human emotion. The realism, and then sometimes they were carved as human bodies, and then they don't cover their private part and as it is, right? You can see that I didn't take pictures, but I didn't put it like this. Really realism. And rather than what detach the idealism evident in the art of the classical period. Classical period, they are like 4, 5, right? 4, 5. That's a general kind of impression and about Hellenistic culture during the Hellenistic period. So try to understand what was going on, what was really influential at the time, and then it helps you, right? And this period, and there is kind of all kind of philosophies really dominating, and cynicism and Epicurean and Stoicism, Epicureanism and Stoicism and skepticism. That is a kind of at the time is really popular. And cynicism, what is cynicism? It's really sarcastic. They really express in sarcastic and cynical. And cynicism is kind of emphasized, denying the established convention while following one's natural inclinations. Sarcastic and cynical about what? The conventional ideas. So cynic philosophers taught through the deliberate, shocking speech and actions, thereby conveying their condemnation of traditional social values, such as wealth and reputations and pleasures and property, family duties, and religions. And just think about it. People are really cynical, and then how they challenge it, right? That is one of the popular philosophical trend at the time. So, school of the cynicism lasted about at least 700 years, at least, and just well into Roman times too, right? Maybe, but sometimes it's really different, but still keep going and going on. Even though they don't belong to the kind of cynicism, and but still people are really sarcastic about the rich people, because sometimes it's a lot of corruption is there. And then just think about cartoons. One of the ways that really express it differently, and but sometimes it's fun, but still behind, and then it's a little bit political cartoons and other cartoons. Maybe if you are the different, I don't know, the religious cartoon in like a kind of a cynicism, and then if you don't like Christians, and then they use it a different way, like cynically describe the Christian, right? Like this. So later, cynics often modeled the behavior after antics of the original cynics, like Diogenes and then Hipparchia, and most character impersonators, and then so it's really a lot of people influenced by them, but some people kind of even though they're influenced, but they take a different way. So we can see them, how many people, who are the really influential, and then who started the cynicism. What about the Epicureanism? Epicureanism is the last time we learned, and but the founders, the namesake of the Epicurean school was Epicurus, right? Epicurus, and then that's period, fall into the period. That's why he adopted the atomistic view of the Democritus, and then how that happiness is achieved through the pleasure. It's a little bit different from the Stoicism, but they really, they don't, even though they try to pursue the simple life, but still they don't even know they don't kind of put them aside and was a sensual kind of sensible pleasure, so physical include that one. So we can see that one. So Epicureans, and then a little bit different philosophical trend. And then what about the Stoicism? Stoicism is same, but they are really emphasize also the happiness. They don't really rely on the sense, the material stuff, but they really emphasize the reasoning. And they are the one who really with the fatalistic faith. They are really, it was happiness is being well with nature, come along with the nature. They don't create much, but try to live in nature, within nature. There is another supreme beings, and the law is there, divine law is there. There's a Stoicism. Think about the Epicureans, they really understand the physical pleasure too, but they don't really pursue the physical pleasures and really mental reasoning. So Stoicism held that the cosmos governed by the overarching fatalistic law. There's an overarching divine law is there. Maybe that's why a lot of scientists try to discover the laws, like relativity and like Newton's law, and I don't know, maybe and Einstein's, and they believe that there is an overarching law, even though and we best achieve the happiness when you resign yourself to fate. Meaning that if you get along with the overarching law, sometimes you shouldn't against the kind of law of natures, like here. So there's 4 seasons like this, and then think about it, don't against the 4 seasons, and then follow spring is everything new coming up, and then summer and autumn and the fall, and there is a kind of natural law is there. And then that's the kind of, even though you cannot exactly explain, but they are really overarching natural, seasons and natural laws. So, Stoics teach that God is unity, and that they teach that He's called mind and faith, and kind of Jupiter, about the Greek God. God is what? Mind and faith. And many other names, there's many other names. It means that it's a pantheism is developed by them. Lot of gods. And look at this, the basic, the notion of the fate. Everything is in the world is determined according to the principle of the divine law. Also, as of the above indicated, they variously describe the notion of fate as God, fire, destiny, and perhaps most significantly logos. kind of order and what? Divine. The logos is kind of, it's an absolute being, but orders divine rules. Like this. And Greek terms of order and used by pre-Socratic philosopher Heraclitus. And then there is a kind of Heraclitus, I don't know whether you guys remember, and then he used the logos to explain the absolute being. And when you read the Bible and 1 John chapter verse, and the author, John, described Jesus Christ as logos in Greek. And there is some dynamics there and influences, right? And maybe when who reads the book of John, and then a lot of people are kind of influenced by the Hellenistic culture, it's easy to understand who Jesus Christ is then, if they use the logos. So the central theme of Stoic ethics is to live according to nature and resign oneself to what is fated in the world and around us. That is a kind of basic, and they try to kind of retreat from and then try to find that one. That's why really ascetic. They are really ascetic, but Epicureans is not ascetic and try to pursue the happiness. It's a little bit different. That's the basic concept of the difference between them. What about skepticism? Skepticism really emphasizes doubting everything, especially as a means of becoming tranquil and happy. Right? They are really try to pursue the happiness, but still, what is the happiness? Happiness is becoming the tranquil and calm, and but still what? Doubting everything. It's true. It's there, like doubting everything. That's the skepticism, right? And at that time, there's two distinct schools of Greek skepticism. One is from the what? Plato is from the what? One called academic skepticism originated within the philosophical school of academy founded by Plato. That's one is it's not a cynical, but Plato himself was the anti-skeptical as any philosopher could be, but within the few generations after his death, the follower transformed the academy into the stronghold of skepticism, right? But Plato was not, but what? The followers kind of developed a little bit change and transformed to skepticism. There's one of skepticism and really prevalent at the time. Another skepticism is here. Second school, the one that we focus on here, called Poronism, and start Poro. And we're going to see that. After he's found the Poro was not connected with the academy. He's not in the academy, but the previous academy, he is a drawer, and from the Greek coastal city Alice, and then reported to have a travel with Alexander Greater to India, and he studied scholars and mystics. The core of his philosophical view was that we should suspend the judgment because we are not sure. That's skepticism. So we should suspend the judgment on every matter, not just one thing. Always there is another possibilities. That's why you cannot judge. just think about kind of skepticism and then what's going on then. It means that they are not sure the absolute truth, right? And it's kind of a leading to relativism and leading to pluralism. Still holding the judgment. So Paul tried to practice what he preached, right? And yeah, but he does not trust the what? His senses we feel, see, and but people would have to steer him clear of the wagons, the ledges, and dogs, and then just think about what we see, what we hear. That is skepticism. Do you know, kind of that is a really dominant school of the philosophy. There is kind of eclecticism, and there's a lot of philosophical trends there, but I just picked up four because one professor and tried to explain the also Hellenistic culture and read this book kind of the schools of philosophy, and kind of makes sense. So other things are still lasted, but still I don't know how popular at the time, but we consider the Bible and then how it's really popular at the time. So let's jump into the philosophers, and then as we Socratic philosophers, and they wrote that they have something, and but their writings not survived, right? Writing was not survived, and then what about this philosopher at the time in Hellenistic? They wrote a lot, but still most of the original resources are gone. And usually studies based on the philosopher who wrote the books, and talk about the others, and then there is kind of mentioned about the philosophers, and then based on the kind of resources and reorganize and try to understand who they are. So I try to collect all the material here and there, but still let's base a lot of information from the Wikipedia, and because it's hard to get the information, but mostly I hear there is a citation there where it's come from. So other books, who others says and who said, and then there's information. So it's not just one person's idea, and then already published by book and articles, and then so we respect that one. That's why I kind of get the idea from them. So let's start off with Poro of Alice, and he is born Alice in Greece, and then was a Greek philosopher, classical antiquity, and then even though he is 360 to 270, right? It's according to the Hellenistic period, and then credited as being the first Greek skeptic philosopher, the founder of the Polonism. Okay, and just think about who is a skeptic, the kind of representative of skepticism or the Polonism is a Polo, at least, right? And I always say most of what he knows today as a Polonism comes through the book of Outline of the Polonism, written by the Sextus Empiricus. Over 400 after Polo's death. Still the skepticism maybe it's kind of a generation to generation, and then practice, and then influence. That's why I think it's over 140 years ago, the rest of the Sextus, and then Sextus Empiricus, and then wrote about the role, right? Piro. So the primary goal of Poro's philosophy was what? Achievement of a state of ataraxia. So ataraxia, or freedom from mental perturbation. And he observed that the ataraxia could be brought about by what? As choosing belief about thought and perceptions. Mean that how can we have a freedom? So a lot of people are it's really religious, and they have already had a dogma and belief, right? And how they believe. But he said that there was a big obstacles. Because already their mind is set. And just think about, and when we see, that's a philosopher's mind, but when we see the theologian's mind is totally different, right? God is always there. That's a theologian mind, and but skepticism, like a mirror, and then think about one more time. How can be sure about that? Look at this, and however, Plato's own philosophy may be differed significantly in detail from the later Platonism, Platonism, and then he started there, and then always kind of the thought is kind of developed. One of the Hellenistic was a characteristic, not there, it's a progress, right? Not stagnant, not fixed. So most interpretation of the information of Plato's philosophy suggests that he claimed that reality is inherently indeterminate. It's not a determinate, it's your options, your choice. Which in the view of Platonism described by Sextus Empiricus would be considered negative dogmatic belief. It's not usually maybe some belief, some dogmas is kind of plays a positive in their life, and then it's okay. But sometimes when you see that the Christians, and then you cannot give them some credit, right? Because their faith may be different from what they believe. That's the kind of negative sense, and then they have think about how they behave, and perception is kind of think about more. Like that's the interpretation. It's not a positive side and negative side. That's his explanation. But skepticism is a start from the what? Start off with what? From the fear of Alice. If you study economy of philosophy, it's really it's how to develop your thinking skill. And before you judge something, and then you gotta see the logics, and you gotta see the kind of whole pictures in logic and reasoning. So Platonism is one of the two major schools of philosophical skepticism that emerged during the Hellenist period. We already saw that one is from Plato's, but the school is kind of transformed to skepticism. The other one is started with this one, right? That's about that one. And there is, he said, summary, there is I got the information. Look at this. And the summary of the Plato's philosophy was preserved by Eusebius. Eusebius was one of the historian in Greek, and then quoting Aristotle, and then quoting Timons, and then in what is known as Aristotle pages, right? There are complete interpretation of the ideas presented in this passage. Each of leads to different conclusion as to what Paul meant. Yeah, they cited, and but little bit different interpretations, and then he got this one, and then that Paul's citation is depends on how you see, and the interpretation is different. And then whoever wants to live well, so live well in the eudaimonia, that's live well must consider three questions. The Pharaoh said it. First, how are the pragmata. Pragmata is ethical matter, affairs, and topics by nature. How are pragmata by nature? Just how should you live and act? And what about the second? What attitude should we have adopt toward them? Attitude, kind of behavior. And thirdly, what will be the outcomes for those who have this attitude? That is a kind of what is the nature, what is the kind of adoptions, and what is the outcome? That one is kind of to think about it, right? Paul's answers is that as for the pragmata, they are all so idea Bora is going to be undifferentiated by the logical differential. So idea Bora theory is kind of matter is unstable and unbalanced, then not measurable. And Anapikrita, is unjudged, unfixed, and that is he said that, and this pragmata is like it's not differentiated logically, it's not unstable, unbalanced, and then that's a basic thing, and then and undecided, unjudged, and what happened. Therefore, neither our sense perception nor our dogmas, doxai, tell us the truth or the lie. So we cannot do anything, right? That is we consider kind of we see the negative side. Pragmata is a negative side. It's not a positive side. So we cannot say the good or bad. We cannot say the truth or lies. He said we certainly should not rely on them. Rather, we should be adaxastai without view, and alkalinized, and then uninclined toward the side or that, and akrada vantoid, unwavering in our refusal to choice, saying about every single one that is no more is than is now or both, and it's not is now or it neither is nor is not. We cannot say which one is good, which one is no. We cannot say both is not. Right? So kind of, it makes sense which side you can see. But heroes, when you think about how was the pragmatize kind of ethical matters, and this one is kind of a negative side, unjudged, right? You cannot have anything. So basically, if you have a sound mind, the people don't have a sound mind, just hold. This about it's not from the sound mind. It's undifferentiated by the logical differentiation. How can you get the logical differentiation? Reasoning and by the logic. You gotta see which one is illogic, and then mean that we cannot trust it. Right. So when you think about Thoreau, and then he's the kind of paved about skepticism, right? Think about one more time to hold your judgment. And there is Epicurus, and then we already talked a little bit, and he is still Epicurus. Think about influenced by the Pharaoh and possibly cynic, and Demetrius and Artemis, and then Aristophus, and I don't know this guy, but this one is from the once I tried to explain the world with the atom, and that is we already, last week we already see that there's atom, another atom is kind of hit, and then another thing is coming out, but it's resolved and then disappeared, right? And just think about skepticism and the cynical, but we try to kind of pursue the happiness. Just imagine how the skepticism and the cynicism is kind of influence on him, and then maybe he can take a totally different way to understand and to live a life. He turned against the Platonism of his day and established his own school known the Garden of in Athens. That's his own school. Still, even though there's Platonism, it's kind of keep going on. It's another skepticism. There's a school of academy. It's really skeptical, but he's really against the skepticism. Another meaning. And Epicurus and his followers were known for eating simple meals and discussing a wide range of philosophical subjects. Each night they are really pursuing about the essential things like we think about, right? Not the essential things. Sometimes that's maybe misunderstanding of them, and they are really happiness or physical physical happiness. Not really though. Then they shouldn't do like this. They are philosophers, but they acknowledge their own physical happiness. And then he openly allowed women and slaves to join the schools. It's impossible for men. Impossible for them at that time, but he willing to open. As matters of policy, so he's pretty open, right? And they're really against the dominant school of philosophy. It's newcomers. He said that the purpose of philosophy is to help people attain a happy eudaimonic and tranquil life. Mean that tranquil, calm, and not disturbed by, characterized by ataraxia, right? Like a Piro. It's the same definition of ataraxia. And sorry, not Piro, ataraxia, right? And peace and freedom from it's not from it. We already saw from the Epicurean before. And ataraxia is peace and freedom from fear. And then what? Aponia. Another one is aponia, and they are pursuing the ataraxia and aponia, the absence of pain. That's why that is a kind of one of added other part of it. That's why there is pain is usually physical and sensible. He advocated the people were best able to pursue the philosophy by living a self-sufficient life, surrounded by his friends. So basically, if you don't have enough, and then you cannot do philosophy. That's true. So and that was kind of joke when I was in college, and then, okay, so what are you gonna do? We have 50 people in philosophy major, and same year, and then a lot of people, we just joking around, and then, okay, after graduation, you're gonna do something kind of fortune teller in the kind of sit under the sidewalk in the metropolitan. It's really people are coming in and out, and then try to ask their future, and then you're gonna tell them fortune teller like this. That one is kind of joking. It means that it's hard. It's not helpful for living, right? But that's why he's the best able to pursue philosophy by living sufficient life surrounded by friends. If you don't have friends, you're gonna be suffer. And then he's gonna come over the aponia. So he thought that the root of all human neurosis kind of worries is a death and denial. People really fear death. Right. I know some people, they are not fear about that. And the people say that I want to go back to my original place, my hometown. They believe that they from God and they go back to kingdom of God. That's why they are not scared, even though they suffer with cancers and they suffer with other illness, and then they don't worry about it. They don't scared about it. But a lot of people really scared about it. Now, it means that people are really scared about the tendency for human being to assume that death will be horrific and painful, which he claimed cause unnecessary anxiety, selfish, self-protective behavior, and hypocrisy. Because they are worried about death. That's why it's free from the fear, and they can make accomplish the purpose of their philosophy in life, right? According to him, death is the end of the both body and the soul. Therefore, should not be feared. Should not be feared. He taught that although gods exist, they have no involvement in human affairs. So God created everything and there, but he's not related to a human being. That's a totally different. And usually when you have a skeptical perspective of what's going on in this world, and then people really think about, they acknowledge God, but God is kind of cruel. They don't care about the human society. That's theism. So think about it, and he taught that people should be behave ethically, not just not sensibly, and ethically not because God's punish or reward people for their action, but because moral behavior will burden them with guilt or prevent them from attaining ataraxia. That's why it's not because God punish or the reward, but because it's kind of obstacles to get into your ataraxia, right? And eventually give you burden is kind of a pain with your guilt feeling. So another side, and he's empiricist, and then he believed that the sense are the only reliable source of knowledge about the world. Yeah, it's really different stuff, and that's think about it, and then we don't just simply think that Epicureanism is not pursuing the law, but physical happiness, not for themselves. They have the ethics, right? Yeah, there's after he founded the Epicureanism, and then there's followers like Metrodorus of Lamb's Socrates, Greek, and he was a Greek philosopher of the Epicurean school, and was a native Lamb's Socrates of the Hellespont. So philosophy, his philosophy appears to have a bit of a more sensual kind than that of Epicureans. So a little bit more sensual. It's kind of in the beginning, the Epicurus didn't mean that, but he a little bit developed and emphasized sensual kind. Do you know how kind of changed the original purpose teaching? So perfect happiness, he made it to according to the Cicero's in his historian philosopher, having well-constituted body and knowing that it would be always remain so. It's really just a body shape. They really think about the body shape at the time. If you have a well body shape and that's a perfect happiness. It means that, that's one of the way that he tried to explain it. But just from him, we can see that how little bit philosophy is kind of changed, right? General is kind of Stoicism is like Stoicism, and I'm gonna give you a little bit background. So just skipping all of them. Maybe you can see later. And General is kind of studied under the philosophy of Megarian school, including Stipo and dialectic Theodorus, Chorus, and Philo. So he studied there. He's also said to have studied Platonist philosophy under the direction of Xenocrates and Ptolemies. That is his background. It means that still he influenced by the others, but still based on his ideas based on the Plato's, right? And the end goal of which was to achieve the eudaimonia, kind of happiness, right? And through the right way of living according to nature. That's it's not just aligned with the nature, living aligned with the nature, living with the kind of living with by the natural law. There's a happiness. So Jan's idea was later expanded upon by the other Stoics. But that is basically his idea. So remember that. One thing is that he tried to explain the whole things, and then he universe, the generals in the generals universe is God. Meaning that this try to explain the fires and it's the basis of all activity in the universe. And then just think about universe is God, and then there's a pantheism is conformed based on that one, right? So that is the Stoicism. So fire, there is kind of fire is the basis for the all activity of the universe. So General is kind of he is single and soul and simple good, which is the only goal to strive for. And happiness is a good flow with life. How? This can only be achieved through the use of the right reasoning coinciding with the universal reasoning, logos. He used the logos, which governs everything. So basically, even though he is really emphasized reasoning. Reasoning is not adjustable. So you're gonna find the natural law and understand the overarching law, and then you can be happy, achieve happiness. Now let's go to this founder of the Stoicism, and then remember that always the philosophy is kind of progressing and then developing, and then a little bit different from the beginning, right? And then Cleanthes and then Cleanthes is what? He is a Greek Stoic philosopher, and he's a boxer, right? Who was the success of Zeno of Cicero was a general as the second head of the second head is a Scolac, and then of the Stoicism school in Athens. He's next to he's a kind of next to the Zeno. Originally, his boxer came to Athens, where he took up the philosophy and listening to Zeno's lectures, and he supported himself working as a water carrier at night. And after the death of Zeno, and then around 262 BC, and then he became a head of a school and post of he held for the next 32 years. Look at this. Cleanthes successfully preserved and developed the Janus doctrines. He originated new idea in Stoic physics, how to explain the physics and metaphysics, and then developed the Stoicism in accordance with the principles of materialism and pantheism. And he developed it. That's why he's a really important figure in Hellenistic philosophers. So among the fragment of the Cleanthes writings, which comes down to us, the largest is the hymn to Zeus. His pupil was Chrysippus, who became one of the most important Stoic thinkers. And maybe Chrysippus, and he's one of the the philosopher, but maybe we can see that later. And so was most important figure in the development of Stoicism. Okay, remember though, he's kind of a second generation of Stoicism, but he developed a lot of the basic foundation and directions, and stamped his personality on the physical circulation of the school, and by materialism give the unity to the Stoic system. So that is it's a really important figure in Stoicism. Cleanthes revolutions were the physics by the theory of the tensions. That is a basic concept in his philosophy, which distinguishes Stoic materialism from all concept of the matter as dead and inert. Right? And he developed the Stoic pantheism and applied his materialistic view to the logic and ethics. So he argued that the soul was material. Soul was material. It's totally different from Platonism, right? And material substance, and he was proved by the circumstance then not only bodily quality but also mental capacity was transmitted by the ordinary generation from the parent to the child. What is the soul? And we said it's not there's how you understand the human bodies, and then he believed that the soul is material, but Christians there is a spirit and soul and body. Sometimes the spirit and soul is they used together in when Paul's writings, and then same word but used together, and then but there is some people said human bodies kind of 3 divisions there, but some people say 2 divisions there. So spirit, and they kind of put the soul together, spirit and body. But some people divide the spirit and body, and then spirit the soul. That's just 3 divisions. But he tried to understand a different way there, right? And kind of each descendant from your parent to child, and then by the sympathy of the soul with the body seen in the fracture that the soul is pained. When body is strong and cut, the soul is pained. When the soul is torn by the anxiety and depressed by care, the body correspondingly affected. There is a kind of relationship, but still it's a stick to the body, and then it's understanding human beings like that. So it's more like what? Body side, it's not spirit side, right? But when we think about the human being in Christianity and what, and spirit is kind of a respond to what? God. But soul is a respond to the basic human desires. Body is a kind of physical body. So always, maybe body itself is maybe neutral, but if you desire the spirit things and then your body follows it, then while your soul desires and you follow the worldly things. Yeah, when we understand we understand about different perspectives, especially from the the Christian perspective, and then he understands the soul is kind of material, and then attached linked. I don't know linked to it to the bodies. That's why body responded. So look at this, and soul lives on after death, but soul lives forever and ever. But the intensity of its existence will vary according to the strength or weakness of the practical particular soul. Sometimes I don't understand this one and live forever, but live forever. Yeah, intensity of the existence maybe a little bit vivid or kind of lethargic, maybe like this. Yeah. That is his basic understanding of the human bodies. Yeah. But we believe like that, and it's kind of materialistic, but it's not perished. Our soul is not perished, according to the Cleanthes. Look at this. Cleanthes maintain that the pleasure is not only good, but is contrary to nature and worthless. Just think about Zeno, it's a little bit different, right? Along with the nature, but yeah, he's contrary to the natures and worthless. It is his opinion that the passion, no fear, grief, or the weakness, but lack of those strain or tension, which he persistently emphasized, and on the strength of the soul less than that of the body depends, which constitutes human being self-control and moral strength, and also conditioned every virtues. There is no concept of spirit, right? But soul is kind of in charge of everything here, but it's material. So even though it's material, that it's not perish, right? It's not perishable. Look at this, and people walk in the weakness in all their lives, or at any rate, for the greater part of it, if they attain the virtue, it's late and at the very sunset of their days. And so that's why it depends on your spirit soul, and then your life is totally, it's going to be different. That's his explanation. So, still, completing the well-known Stoic formula that the goal is to consistently live nature. That's Janus developed Cleanthes is what? to live consistently, but he put the added with the nature. That is really important things. So we couldn't see the what's the difference with he developed pantheism, and I asked him something and the pantheism, and he understands the soul is a little bit different from Janos, and then he look at this, and then Cleanthes, that one, he to live constantly with the nature mean that living comparably to the course of the universe. H that one. For the universe under the governance of the reason, and every has it as everyone has it as the privilege to know or become, acquired the world course or recognize it as a rational, cheerfully to conform to it. So still, when you see this one, it's about Cleanthes is about reasoning is really, really important, right? So he said that living comparably to the course of the universe is this one. That's why I try to understand with your reason. He said so true freedom of will, not acting without motive and apart from set purpose, or the conspiracy or humbly acquiescing in the universal order. That's why still federalism is there, right? But therefore, in everything that people one, the one is the sun. He says sun is God. Just think about fire. And Jano is trying to understand there's a fire and he has sun. And that's why they kind of try to understand the universal kind of one universe is a God and whole. How can we live kind of comfortably? And they say what? To live consistently with the natures, understand the natures. Just think about a little bit different, right? It's a lot different from our Christian perspective. There is God and create the universe, and then what? God maintain and operate the universe in His providence, but they didn't know that one, and then they still try to understand the natural world, and then there is a universal. Try to find the universal law, and then live with the universal law is coming out. That's happiness for them. So Timonophilus, one is the kind of he's skepticism, skeptic, and then he was a Greek, Polonist philosopher, with the skepticist, and a pupil of Polo, and then celebrate the right of satirical and poems called Silo. It's really important. And Polo is ultimately originated from Timor rather than the Polo. Polo is kind of it's not a Pharaoh. So Pharaoh is not created the Pharaohism, right? But Timon he used he is the kind of people who did right. And according to the Diogenes, Laertius, and then Timon was a one-eyed man, and he used to even to make a gesture, kind of make people laugh, and his own defect, calling himself Cyclops. I don't know, so Cyclops, and then some other example of his better secretism recorded by he, Diogenes, one of which is worth quoting as a maximum in criticism, being asked by Aratus how to obtain the pure text of Homer. He replied, if you could find the old copies, and not these with modern emendations, like a little bit different way he kind of sarcastic and cynical, right? Oh yeah, sorry, sarcastic and support and he also said to be fond of the retirement and of the gardening, but Diogenes introduced this statement and some of other in such a way as to suggest doubt whether he ought to be referred to our Timon or Timon's Vatan or other. Sometimes that's the problem is that, right? And depends on which resources and how you interpret, and then we can understand the people. So Siloy is a word of somehow uncertain, but this is kind of uncertain etymology. We don't know the origin, but still, Siloy describe metrical composition or the characters at once, ludicrous or sarcastic. So really try to understand the word is a sarcastic way, right? And there's a lot of silos and then here and then, but according to Timon's philosopher, and philosopher is excessively cunning murder of many wise souls. That he expressed the philosophers. The only two whom he spares are the Xenophonus and the modest, the censor of the Homer's life. Maybe we don't know what he said and about, but he said it and we wrote against whom no other moral dare contend. So, but he's still not against about other like philosophers, but he still respect the Xenophonus and Philo, but still he developed a lot of things. And so Silos comes remember the different people wrote the Siloi, and then so describes the metrical composition of the character ones, ludicrous, kind of make foolish and sarcastics. That's the way that they teach and I have one more person though, and okay, let's Arcelius, right? Arcelius is a Greek Hellenistic philosopher, and then was a founder of academic skepticism. What is various called the second or the middle or the new academy. So the face of the Platonic academic in which they embrace philosophical skepticism. So a little bit, Aristotle is a little bit, Cecilius is a little bit different, but it's based on the what? But still he accepts a little bit the another school of skepticism. So our Cecilius succeeded was greatest Athens, the sixth head of the academy around 264, and in Athens, Cecilius interacted with the Poloist philosophers and like Timon. We just saw it, and who philosophy appeared to have influence. It's really was Timon influenced a lot as Cecilius, and he adopted what? A position of philosopher skepticism. That is, he doubted the ability of the science and to discover truth. Usually, skepticism is kind of don't give me a lot of credit on the senses, right? And although he may have continued to believe in the existence of truth itself, but he brought in the skeptical face of the academy. His chief opponent is a contemporary of Zeno, the founder of the Stoicism, whose dogma is he didn't go with the Zeno, right? So he's a little bit different from even though he's maybe skeptical, but still he sarcastic philosopher, cynicism, was Poloism he created, and he influenced a lot. And Cecilius contemporary Aristobulus, and then described he described Aristobulus as being Plato to head of him. Head is Plato, and then Plato's tail, midway is Dionysus. You can see how he can be influenced by others, and then kind of neglected way. In a collective way, he used his developed his philosophy, and Cecilius presented himself as a Platonist, and the substance of what the thought was the dialectics of Diodorus, but his actual philosophy was that the Poloism. So usually, our Cecilius professed to be no innovator, nothing new, but what he said, revival of the dogma-free dialectic that had characterized academy under Plato. So he doesn't have his unique things, but he got here and there and there, and then he used their idea and then reflect in their present time. That's why they just said it. And there is kind of three important and influence on him. They restored the doctrine of Plato in an uncorrupted form. And on the other side, according to Cicero, and he summed up his opinion in the formula, Cicero's formula, and that in knowing nothing, not even his ignorance, but just think about it. If someone has all of things, and how can we understand what he says? Sometimes it's kind of completely there, and then maybe he's basically skeptic, but he expressed in sarcastic way and dialectic, and but yeah, that's the he. Yeah. And we consider basically kind of what kind of philosophies really dominated at the time, and who were the philosophy and how they developed the philosophy. That is a basic idea of the philosophy. So there's just remember that the cynicism start with the Pharaoh, but it's not from Pharaoh. He didn't establish anything, but there was Timo, and he developed the Pharaohism, right, and then tried to kind of Pharaoh, try to, this kind of skeptical way, but Pharaohism is kind of used, and cynicism is, it's a, maybe, Tim known is really, he used this, kind of cynicism, but it's a little bit different, but really, skepticism, kind of from the Pharaoh, and then but still used a lot of different Plato's and Timnon, and then the Pharaoh, right? And so that philosophy, this kind of school of philosophy is kind of dominated the period, and then keep influence in the beginning of the Christian, early Christianity. So if you read the Bible and just we cannot see it sometimes without any resources, and then background and historical background, cultural background, and that's why we gotta kind of help to understand the background, and why they have a lot of argument, and then for that one we are kind of reviewing what was ongoing and how it developed a little bit, but we don't get much information about them, but still we understand the basic concepts and philosophy in the Hellenistic period. So next week we're gonna study a little more philosophers, and then we can move on the Roman period. So it's not easy to have in-depth knowledge of the philosophers, but there is not many direct resources and their writings, and based on their kind of someone citing and quoting, and then that's the main resources nowadays. They try to collect all informations and then try to understand them. But still we gotta know what's the main idea of the philosophies. That's the purpose. And I know it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy for me too, right? Even though I study philosophy, but I don't major in philosophy, yeah, kind of a degree, advanced degree in philosophy. So I hope that this is a kind of introductory kind of class for the understanding of Christianity. So I think it's help you to understand a little bit background of the early Christianity, and then kind of understand how influence the philosopher trend to Christians, and then what's going on. So I hope that I never heard a lot of philosophers' names, but it's a really important figure like a Timnon, but not much resources about, but I don't know, sometimes it's a really big question to me too, and how can they as a really big figure in the philosophy, but it's maybe I need more resources to check, but I don't want to go that deep, trying to kind of summary and what's going on and how it developed. That's why I give you a basic idea of how they think. Okay, you guys, and then next week we're gonna, so based on there is 4 schools there, and then based on the SLC latest, and then lasers, and then just think about it and really collected, and he got some idea, he Plato, and then Diogenes, and what is it though? Timnon. It's a little bit different though. So, but there is 4 schools is really dominant, right? So there is another things going on, but still, remember that those kind of philosophy, school of philosophy's influence. All right, I'm gonna stop here today. So next week we're gonna have the rest of the part of the Hellenistic philosophers, and then we can move on. So I hope that you guys can take care of yourself very well, and then everything's going well as you wish it. Okay, God bless you. Have a